Cold air stabbed my lungs as I stood in the driveway, staring at a yard that looked too perfect. Fresh snow. Smooth like a clean sheet. Not a footprint. Not a shovel mark. Just white, and quiet and wrong. Behind me, the front door of the small house was open, spilling warm yellow light into the blue-gray evening. Inside, someone was crying so hard they couldn't breathe. In the street, a police cruiser idled with its lights off, like it didn't want the neighbors to notice. And in front of me, the woman grabbed my arm with fingers so cold they felt like glass. "Listen to me," she whispered, fast and shaking. "When your husband leaves, don't touch the snow in your yard." Her eyes weren't dramatic. They were terrified. I swallowed, trying to understand. "What are you talking about?" "My husband." She squeezed harder. "Promise me. Don't dig. Don't sweep it. Don't be curious. Just promise." A man's voice yelled from inside the house. "Ma'am, step away from him." Her face twisted like she wanted to say more, but fear shoved the words back down her throat. Then she let go and stumbled backward, hands up like she was surrendering. The officer rushed out, positioning himself between us. And I stood there in the falling snow, feeling the warning crawl under my skin like a living thing. Because she didn't know me. She didn't know I wasn't married. She didn't know my name. Yet she looked straight into my soul and gave me a message that felt meant for someone. And somehow meant for me. And the part that made my stomach drop wasn't the police car or the crying inside. It was the yard. Because a few minutes earlier, before I rang the bell, I had noticed something strange in that snow. Faint dip. A smooth little hollow. Like someone had placed something there, and covered it gently. Like a secret they planned to come back for. I backed away from the snow like it might explode. And that's when I realized the woman wasn't warning me about weather. She was warning me about what people hide when they leave. What they bury. What they plant. What they hope you will touch. So your fingerprints end up where there should be. And I swear to you, I would have walked away right then. I would have gone home, shut my door, and let that warning become just another creepy moment in a hard world. But the open loop had already hooked into my life. Because the woman whose groceries I paid wasn't just a stranger. She was the beginning of the worst betrayal I've ever seen. And the sweetest karma I've ever witnessed. She thought her husband had simply left her. She thought she was about to lose her house, her dignity, her life. But she had no idea her husband didn't leave empty-handed. He left with a plan. A plan that involved snow, and silence, and a person like me. And by the time the last piece clicked into place, one man's perfect image would melt like ice on asphalt. And the truth would finally rise from beneath the snow. 3 days earlier I was standing in line at a grocery store off Route 9, the kind of place where the floor always smells like cleaner and the lights make everyone look tired. It was late afternoon. The sky was already turning orange, and the wind outside was sharp enough to make you hunch your shoulders without thinking. I'd just gotten off work. I do accounting for a small construction company. Nothing fancy, nothing dramatic. My life is spreadsheets, invoices, and coffee that tastes burnt by 10 a.m. I'm not a hero. I'm not a detective. I'm just a guy who tries to do the right thing, even when the world makes that feel stupid. In front of me was a woman with a cart that looked like she had filled it with pure survival. Rice, beans, bread, a small pack of chicken, 2 cans of soup, a box of generic cereal, a gallon of milk, and the saddest part, a tiny little cake mix, the cheapest one, like she was trying to give someone a birthday with almost nothing. Her coat was too thin for winter. Her hair was pulled back in a messy knot, like she didn't have time to look in a mirror anymore. And her hands kept checking her pockets like her money might disappear if she didn't guard it with her life. When the cashier told her the total, her shoulders flinched. $87.42, the cashier said, bored. The woman pulled out a crumpled envelope and began counting bills so worn they looked tired too. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. She stopped, stared, counted again like maybe she had missed a miracle. Then she whispered, I'm short. The cashier didn't even blink. How much? The woman's voice cracked. $23. The cashier sighed and started reaching for the divider like she was already separating the food into a yes pile and a no pile. The woman's eyes went wide. She grabbed the chicken like it was her last piece of pride. "Please don't take that," she said. "I can put back the cereal. Or the cake mix. It's just—" She stopped herself, swallowed hard, and looked down like she hated herself for even speaking. I know that look. It's the look of someone who used to be okay. Someone who used to have a life where $23 didn't decide whether their kids ate dinner. I stepped forward before I could overthink it. "I'll cover it." The woman spun around like my voice startled her. Up close, her eyes were a stormy green, rimmed red like she hadn't slept. There was something about her face that felt familiar in a way I couldn't place. Not like I knew her personally, but like I had seen her type before. Good people crushed by bad luck. "Oh no," she said quickly. "No, I can't." "It's okay," I said, already tapping my card. "Really?" The cashier rang it through like it was nothing. Like her struggle was just another transaction. But the woman, she stood there frozen, hands gripping the cart handle. When the receipt printed, she didn't grab it. She just stared at me with a fear that didn't match the moment. "Thank you," she whispered. "You shouldn't have done that." "It's fine," I said, trying to smile. "Everyone needs help sometimes." She swallowed like her throat was tight. "No. You don't understand." Her fingers trembled as she reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a small piece of paper. Can I give you something?" I glanced at the paper. It was a folded note, the kind someone hands you when they're too scared to say the rest out loud. "It's okay," I said. "You don't have to." "Please," she insisted, eyes darting around the store like she was worried someone was watching. So I took it. And when our fingers touched, her hand was ice cold like she'd been outside too long. "My name is Marla," she said softly. "I'll pay you back." "You don't have to," I told her. "Just take care of yourself." She nodded, but her face didn't relax. If anything, it tightened. Then she leaned closer and said something that didn't make sense at the time. "When your husband leaves," she whispered, "don't touch the snow in your yard." I blinked. "What?" Marla's eyes locked on mine. "Promise." I laughed a little because I didn't know what else to do. "I'm not married." Her face didn't change. Not even a little. Like the message wasn't about me personally. "Promise anyway," she said, voice shaking. Something in her tone made the hair on my arms rise under my jacket. This wasn't a joke. This wasn't some quirky stranger moment. This was fear. Real fear. "Okay," I said slowly. "I promise." The moment I said it, Marla exhaled like she had been holding her breath for days. Then she grabbed her bags, pushed the cart away, and hurried toward the exit. I watched her go, confused, holding that folded note like it was heavier than paper should be. Outside, snow fell in light, lazy flakes. And I told myself it was nothing. Just a stressed woman saying something strange. Just a weird line in a normal day. But later that night when I opened the note, my stomach turned cold. Inside was an address. And beneath it, 2 words written in shaky handwriting. "Please help." No name. No explanation. Just an address and a silent scream. I stared at it for a long time, feeling the argument in my head. This could be a scam. This could be dangerous. This could be none of my business. But then I remembered the cake mix. I remembered the way she fought for that chicken. I remembered the panic in her eyes when she said, "Promise." People who are scamming don't look like that. People who are lying don't shake like they're about to shatter. I slept maybe 2 hours that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face and heard that line again. "Don't touch the snow in your yard." By the next day I tried to forget it. I went to work. I answered emails. I pretended my life was normal. But the note sat in my pocket all day like it was burning a hole through the fabric. That evening the sky turned dark early. Winter does that. It makes the world feel smaller, like night is always waiting just around the corner. I drove to the address. It was in a quiet neighborhood, The kind with small front porches and 2 cars in every driveway. The kind where people wave at each other and pretend everything is fine. But when I pulled up, I noticed something. One house stood out like a bruise. The porch light was off. The curtains were drawn tight. The yard was covered in fresh snow, smooth and untouched. And the driveway was empty. No car. No tracks. Like someone had vanished. I parked across the street and sat there with my hands on the steering wheel, heart thumping like I was about to do something stupid. Then I saw movement behind the curtain. Shadow. Face. And I knew Marla was inside. I got out, boots crunching on snow, and walked up to the front door. My breath came out in white clouds. The neighborhood felt too quiet, like even the dogs were holding their barking. I knocked. Nothing. I knocked again. This time I heard it. Soft sound. Like a muffled sob. Marla! Called, keeping my voice low. Silence. Then slowly the door opened a crack. Her face appeared, pale as the snow outside. When she saw me, her eyes widened like she couldn't believe I came. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered. "I got your note," I said. "Are you okay?" Her lips trembled. "No." That one word hit harder than any long explanation. I stepped closer, but she didn't open the door wider. Her body was blocking the gap like she was shielding something behind her. "Is someone with you?" "Yes." Her gaze flicked past me toward the street, like she expected a car to roll up at any second. "He left," she whispered. "Who left?" "My husband," she said, and the word husband came out like poison. "He left this morning." I didn't know what to say. People leave. Marriages break. Sad, but it happens. But Marla's fear wasn't normal heartbreak. This was survival fear. "I'm sorry," I began. She shook her head fast. "You don't understand. He didn't just leave. He set me up." My stomach tightened. "Set you up for what?" Her eyes filled with tears. "For prison. For ruin. For..." She stopped, choking on the rest. I glanced behind her into the house. The living room looked half-packed. Boxes by the wall. A lamp on the floor. Like someone had torn the place apart looking for something. "What happened?" asked. Marla swallowed hard. "Come in. But be quiet." She opened the door and let me inside. The air was warm but heavy, like sadness had a smell. The house wasn't messy in a normal way. It was messy in a panicked way. Drawers pulled out. Closet doors open. Couch cushions moved. On the kitchen counter, I saw a stack of papers spread out like she'd been trying to make sense of them. Marla locked the door behind me, then leaned against it like her legs couldn't hold her anymore. "I shouldn't have dragged you into this," she whispered. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." "Just tell me what's going on," I said. She walked to the kitchen and picked up a piece of paper with shaking hands. "He filed for divorce last week," she said. "But he didn't tell me. I found out when a sheriff's deputy came to the door with papers." My eyebrows lifted. "He served you without warning." She nodded, eyes burning. "He's been planning this for months. Ting kind. Ting normal. While he moved money. While he took loans in my name. While he..." She swallowed, voice breaking. "While he made me look crazy." I felt anger flicker in my chest. "Why?" Marla gave a sad, hollow laugh. "Because he found someone younger. Because he got tired of being a husband. Because he wanted the house without the weight of me." She set the paper down and rubbed her forehead. "Yesterday he told me I was too emotional. That I was unstable. He said if I didn't sign the divorce peacefully, he'd make sure I lost everything." I leaned in. "Did he threaten you?" Her eyes met mine. "Not with his words." She pointed at her phone on the counter. The screen was cracked. "He grabbed me," she said. "Hard. When I tried to take his laptop. I thought he was hiding something. He slammed me into the cabinet and then he smiled. Like it made him happy." My jaw clenched. "Did you call the police?" Marla shook her head. "He's friends with half the town. He donates to the church. He coaches Little League. People love him. I've heard that story before too. The nicest men in public can be monsters in private. Marla wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. This morning I woke up and he was gone. His side of the closet was empty. His toiletries gone. His coffee mug gone. Like he erased himself. She took a shaky breath. But he left one thing behind. What? Yes. Marla's voice dropped into a whisper. Snow. I stared at her. Snow. She nodded slowly, eyes wide with terror. Last night after the argument he went outside. I watched through the window. He was in the yard in the dark, doing something by the flower bed. My stomach tightened as the grocery store warning came back like a punch. Don't touch the snow in your yard. Marla stepped closer, her hands twisting together. This morning before he left, he told me something. He said, when I'm gone, you'll finally get what you deserve. And then he smiled again. She swallowed. Then he walked out, got in his car, and drove away like he was going to the movies. Silence hung between us. I asked carefully, did you go out into the yard? Her eyes snapped to mine. No, I didn't. Because I remembered what I told you. You told me that before you even knew me, I said, stunned. Marla shook her head like she couldn't explain it. I didn't mean you. I meant whoever would listen. She pressed a hand to her chest. I don't know why I said it. Just came out. Like a warning that didn't start in my mouth. A chill ran through me even in the warm kitchen. Marla, I said slowly, what do you think he put in the snow? Her lips quivered. Something that will ruin me. She turned and pulled a folder from the counter. Inside were printed bank statements, loan documents, credit cards. He drained my savings, she whispered. He opened a business account in my name. He used my social security number. He forged my signature. My anger sharpened. That's fraud. Yes, she said, voice cracking. But he made it look like I did it. Like I was stealing from him. She flipped through another paper. And today I got a call from a detective. They said they have questions about missing funds at his company. I felt my blood run cold. His company. Marla nodded, tears sliding down her cheeks. He works finance for a medical supplier. He handles accounts. And now money is missing. And my name is on things it shouldn't be on. I stared at her, realization forming. He didn't just want a divorce. He wanted a scapegoat. Clean exit. A fresh start built on her ruins. Marla's voice dropped to a whisper. If the police come here and find something, I'm done. I'll lose my kids. I'll lose my life. Kids, I repeated. She nodded and pointed down the hallway. They're in the bedroom. I told them Mom has a headache. They're scared. My throat tightened. I thought about that cheap cake mix again. I thought about two little faces waiting for food while their mother fought a war alone. I looked at Marla. Okay, I said. We're going to do this the right way. Her eyes widened. What does that mean? It means we don't touch the yard, I said. Not with our hands. Not with a shovel. We call someone who can document everything. Marla laughed bitterly. And who would that be? The police who love him. We find the one person who doesn't, I said. She stared like she didn't believe there was such a person. But every town has cracks. Every perfect image has someone who has seen the truth. I didn't know who it was yet. But I knew one thing. The snow was a trap. And if Marla touched it, she would be the one caught in it. So I told her to sit down, breathe, and drink water. I asked if she had any bruises. I asked if she had friends or family. Marla shook her head at family. My mom died, she said. My dad, he's not around. And my friends. They're all couple friends. His friends. They stopped calling after he told them I was unstable. That word again. Unstable. It's the favorite weapon of a man who wants to erase a woman's truth. I asked, what's your husband's name? Marla's jaw tightened. Evan Mercer. The name landed like a stone. Evan Mercer. It sounded like a man who wears clean jeans and smiles for photos. Like a man who shakes hands firmly and says, "God bless." Like a man people trust. Marla's fingers clenched. "He's charming," she whispered. "He's calm. He never yells in public. He's the kind of man people say. He would never." She looked at me with raw fear. "But he would." "He did. And he's not done." At that moment, her phone buzzed on the counter. Marla flinched like it was a gunshot. I looked at the screen. Unknown number. She didn't answer. She couldn't. Buzzed again. Then stopped. A text appeared. I read it over her shoulder, and my stomach dropped. "Don't do anything stupid. The yard belongs to you now." Marla's hands flew to her mouth. I grabbed the phone gently. "That's him." She nodded, shaking. I stared at the message. "The yard belongs to you now." That didn't sound like a goodbye. That sounded like a setup. Like he was saying, "Whatever is out there, it's yours. Legally. Emotionally. Blame-wise." Marla whispered. "What do I do?" I took a slow breath. "First, we document everything. Second, we find legal help. Third, we protect you tonight." Marla's eyes filled again. "Why would you help me?" I didn't have a perfect answer. Maybe it was because I couldn't stand watching someone be crushed and doing nothing. Maybe it was because I had grown up with a mother who cried quietly in bathrooms because men like Evan existed. Maybe it was because Marla looked like a person who had been trying to be strong for too long. "All I did was pay for groceries," I said softly. This is bigger than that." Her voice broke. "He planned this." He nodded. "Yes." And then, as if the universe wanted to prove it, we heard tires outside. Car door shut. Heavy steps in the snow. Marla froze. I moved toward the window and peeked through the curtain. A dark SUV sat at the curb. And a man stood beside it, staring at the house like he owned it. He was tall, wearing a neat coat, hair perfectly styled even in the cold. His posture was relaxed. Not worried. Not sad. Pleased. As if he was checking to see if his trap had been sprung. Marla whispered behind me, "That's Evan." He looked up, and for a split second, I swear his eyes met mine through the glass. Then he smiled. Small, calm smile. Like he was saying, "Good. You're here." My skin prickled. I stepped back from the window. Marla's voice shook. "What's he doing here?" "He left." "He's making sure you're alone," I said. And then Evan walked to the yard. Not the door. The yard. He stopped near the flower bed Marla had mentioned. He looked down at the smooth snow like it was a treasure chest. Then he pulled out his phone, snapped a picture of the yard, and tucked the phone away. Like he was collecting proof. Proof that the snow was untouched. Proof that no one had disturbed his little secret. Then he turned, got back into his SUV, and drove away slowly. Marla collapsed onto a chair, sobbing. "He's watching," she cried. "He's watching me like a game." I crouched in front of her. "Marla, listen to me. He wants you to panic. He wants you to touch the yard. He wants you to dig and scream and make it messy." She looked at me, eyes wild. "Why?" "Because messy makes you look guilty," I said. I stood up and looked around the house again. Papers. Torn drawers. The half-packed boxes. This wasn't just a divorce. This was a full character assassination. And the snow. The snow was the final piece. That night I called a lawyer I knew from high school. Not a close friend, but someone I remembered as honest. Her name was Rachel Kim. She answered late, sleepy, but when I explained, her voice sharpened. "Do not touch anything outside," she said immediately. "Do not move anything inside if you can help it. Take photos of all documents. Screenshot text. And if you think evidence is planted outside, you need law enforcement, but the right kind." Marla laughed through tears. "What's the right kind?" Rachel paused. "State investigators. Or internal affairs if local police are compromised. And you need a protective order if he threatened her." Marla whispered. "He didn't threaten me directly." Rachel's voice was firm. His message about the yard counts. Shows intent. And if he put something there, that's tampering. We hung up with a plan. But plans don't stop fear from crawling into your chest at 2 a.m. Marla didn't sleep. I stayed on the couch because she was terrified to be alone. Every sound outside made her jump. Every headlight passing the window made her freeze. Around 3:17 a.m. we heard something. Crunch. Soft footsteps in snow. I sat up, heart pounding. Marla's whisper cut through the dark. He's here. I moved quietly to the window and peeked out. The streetlight cast a pale circle on the yard. Snow glittered like sugar. And near the flower bed, a figure crouched low. My breath caught. It wasn't Evan. It was someone else. Smaller build. Hood up. They moved fast, digging with gloved hands, pulling something up, then putting something else down. Then they smoothed the snow over like it had never been touched. My mouth went dry. Marla stood behind me, shaking so hard the floorboards creaked. The figure froze. Then slowly stood and looked toward the house. Even with the hood, I felt their eyes like nails. Then they turned and ran, disappearing into the dark between houses. Marla pressed a hand to her mouth, muffling a sob. He's doing it, she whispered. He's planting it. He's planting something and making it look like I did it. I forced myself to breathe. We saw it, I said. We saw someone in the yard. That matters. But we didn't record it, she whispered, voice breaking. We didn't. I grabbed my phone and checked the timestamp security camera app in her living room. She had a cheap camera pointed at the front door, but not the yard. No, I muttered. No, no, no. Marla's eyes were wet and desperate. What do we do? I swallowed. We wait for daylight. Then we call state police and we tell them exactly what we saw. We don't touch the snow. Marla nodded like she was trying to hold on to sanity with her fingernails. Morning came like a bruised gray sky. Marla made coffee but didn't drink it. Her hands shook too much. The kids woke up and watched cartoons, unaware their world was cracking. At 9:12 a.m. the doorbell rang. Marla went pale. That's them. I checked the peephole. 2 officers. One tall, one shorter. Their faces were blank. Not friendly. Not cruel. Just official. I opened the door a crack. Can I help you? Yes. The taller officer looked past me into the house like he owned it. We need to speak with Marla Mercer. Marla stepped forward, trying to look calm. I'm Marla. The shorter officer held up a badge. We received a report about possible financial fraud. We have questions. Marla's throat moved as she swallowed. From who? The taller one said. That's not relevant. Are you alone? I felt Marla tense beside me. I said quickly, I'm here. And we spoke to an attorney. The taller officer's eyes narrowed slightly, like that annoyed him. He said, we also have reason to believe there may be evidence related to this matter on the property. Marla's face drained. What evidence? The shorter officer shifted his weight. We'd like to take a look around. Specifically outside. Marla's voice shook. Do you have a warrant? The taller officer's jaw tightened. Ma'am, cooperation is in your best interest. I heard Rachel's voice in my head. Do not let them bully you. I said, calm but firm. No warrant, no search. The taller officer stared at me, then at Marla, then back at me. Then he smiled. Not a warm smile. Thin, patient smile. Like Evan's. Fine, he said. We'll be back. They turned and walked away. As the door shut, Marla crumpled to the floor, crying silently. They're working with him, she whispered. He told you. He's friends with half the town. I crouched beside her. Not everyone is his friend, I said. We're calling state police now. And we did. We called the state police tip line. We explained the planted yard activity at 3:17 a.m. We explained the divorce, the documents, the threatening text. We offered screenshots, photos, anything. The person on the phone sounded serious. They gave us a case number. They said a trooper would contact us. Marla clung to that like a life raft. But while we waited, something else happened. Around noon, Marla's phone buzzed again. Call from Evan. Marla stared at it like it was venomous. I said softly, "Put it on speaker. Record it." Her hands shook as she answered. Evan's voice filled the kitchen, smooth as polished wood. "Marla." She didn't speak at first. Her breathing was loud. Evan sighed dramatically. "Look, I don't want this to get ugly." Marla finally whispered, "You already made it ugly." Evan's tone stayed calm. "I made it fair. You've been unstable. You know that. You need help." I offered help. Marla's eyes flashed. "You offered control." Evan chuckled lightly like she was being silly. "See, this is what I mean. You always twist things." Marla's voice rose, cracking. "Why did you plant something in the yard?" There was a pause. Long pause. Then Evan laughed, low and gentle. "What are you talking about, honey?" Marla's tears spilled. "Don't call me that." Evan sighed again. "Marla, listen. The police are going to do their job. If there's something in the yard, that's not my problem. I don't live there anymore." My stomach churned. He was careful. Very careful. Marla whispered, "You're setting me up." Evan's voice dropped, still calm but colder. "No, I'm protecting myself. That's what adults do." Marla's mouth trembled. "You're ruining me." Evan paused, then said softly, "Marla, you ruined yourself." Then he hung up. Marla stared at the phone like it had slapped her. That call wasn't just cruelty. It was proof of intent. Not enough proof for a court, but enough to show his mind. Enough to show he was calm because he believed he had already won. That afternoon, a state trooper finally arrived. His name was James Holloway. He was broad-shouldered, serious, and he didn't smile too much. He listened. He asked questions. He looked at the threatening text and raised his eyebrows. Then he did something that made me exhale for the first time in hours. He said, "Nobody touches the yard until we document it." He walked outside, took photos, marked the area near the flower bed, and called for a forensic team. Marla's knees almost gave out in relief. But then the twist came. Because while the trooper worked, a sleek black SUV rolled down the street and stopped nearby. And Evan stepped out like he was arriving at a charity event. He was dressed well. Clean boots, nice coat, perfect hair. He walked toward us with a polite smile, hands open like he was harmless. "Officer," he said warmly, "I'm Evan Mercer. I heard there was some misunderstanding." Trooper Holloway's eyes stayed flat. "Sir, you need to stay back." Evan chuckled as if that was cute. "Of course. I just want to make sure my wife is okay. She's been going through emotional episodes." Marla flinched like he punched her with that phrase. Evan looked at her with fake concern. "Marla, sweetheart, please don't do anything reckless." Marla's voice shook with rage. "Stop talking." Evan sighed, then turned to the trooper. "You see, this is what I've been dealing with." Trooper Holloway didn't react. Evan's smile tightened. Then Evan's eyes slid to me. "And who's this?" I felt the air change. He recognized me. The grocery store. The man who paid. He stepped closer, still smiling. "Oh, you." His voice was polite, but his eyes weren't. "They let anyone into your house now, Marla?" Evan asked gently like he was concerned. Marla's hands clenched. "He's helping me." Evan nodded slowly. "Of course he is." Then, very softly, Evan said something only Marla and I could hear. "Be careful what you touch." Marla went pale. I stared at him, cold fury rising. "What did you put in the yard?" Evan's smile didn't move, but his eyes glittered. "I didn't put anything anywhere," he said calmly. "But if my wife did, well, that's between her and the law." Trooper Holloway stepped between us. "Sir, leave. Now." Evan lifted his hands, backing away. "Of course. I just want Two technicians in gloves and boot covers approached the marked area like surgeons. They photographed every angle. They measured the depth. They scanned for disturbances. Then, carefully, they cut into the snow and lifted it in layers. Marla stood behind me, nails digging into her own palms, whispering prayers under her breath. The tech reached something solid. He paused, then gently pulled it out. Small sealed plastic bag. Inside the bag was a gun. Marla made a sound like her soul cracked. "No," she gasped. "No, no, no." Trooper Holloway turned sharply. "Ma'am, step back." Marla stumbled backward, shaking. "That's not mine. I've never even held." But the gun wasn't the worst part, because the technician pulled out a second bag. And inside that one were bundles of cash. A lot of cash. Stacks wrapped in rubber bands. The kind of money people don't keep legally in a yard. Marla's legs gave out and she sank to the floor inside the doorway, sobbing. Trooper Holloway's face stayed serious. "Ma'am," he said, voice firm but not cruel. "We need to talk." In that moment it looked like Evan had won. Because on the surface it was perfect. A husband leaves. A wife is unstable. A gun and cash are found on her property. It writes itself. And the scary part. If Marla had panicked and dug it up herself. If her fingerprints were on that bag. If she tried to hide it. She would be done. Prison. Kids gone. Life over. Evan's plan depended on one thing. Her touching the snow. Marla's voice shook as she cried. "I didn't do it. I didn't do it. Please." Trooper Holloway crouched near her, eyes steady. "We're not done," he said. "We're not assuming anything yet." Then he looked at me. "You said you saw someone in the yard last night." I nodded quickly. "Yes. At 3:17 a.m. hooded. Digging. Replacing something." Trooper Holloway stood and turned to the forensic team. "Check for traces. Footprints, fiber, anything." The tech nodded and moved carefully, scanning the area around the hole. One of them called out, "We've got boot impressions. Partial. Not matching the homeowner's shoes." Trooper Holloway's eyes sharpened. Then another tech said, "There's a glove fiber caught in the snow layer. Dark synthetic." Trooper Holloway exhaled slowly, like a puzzle piece clicked. He turned to Marla. "Do you have cameras?" Marla sobbed. "Just the front door." "Show me," he said. We pulled up the footage. It didn't show the yard, but it showed something else. At 3:16 a.m., a figure walked up the driveway, hood up, face hidden. And for 1 second as the figure turned, the porch light caught a glimpse of the side of their face. Not clear, but clear enough to see one detail. Small, sharp jawline. And a blonde beard. Marla gasped. I said softly, "That's a man." Marla whispered, "Evan's cousin. Tyler." Trooper Holloway's head lifted. "Tyler who?" Marla's voice shook. "Tyler Mercer. He works with Evan sometimes. He's always around." I watched Trooper Holloway's face harden. "Okay," he said. "Now we have something." Within an hour, Trooper Holloway had more troopers arrive. They took statements. They collected Marla's phone. They copied the footage. They bagged the gun and cash with careful chain of custody, like they knew this case would be a fight. Evan's plan was strong. But now there was a crack. Because evidence isn't just what's buried. It's who buries it. Marla sat at the kitchen table, shaking, wrapped in a blanket. The kids were with a neighbor now. Unaware. Marla looked at me with broken eyes. "He almost did it." I swallowed. "But he didn't." She shook her head slowly. "If you hadn't paid my groceries, if you hadn't come, I would have dug it up this morning. I would have panicked. I would have touched it." Her voice crumbled. "And he would have watched me burn." I thought about the warning again. Don't touch the snow in your yard. It wasn't mystical. It was survival wisdom. It was the kind of warning women pass to each other when men like Evan exist. The next 2 weeks were hell. Marla was interviewed again and again. Her finances were audited. Her accounts were frozen. She couldn't sleep. She jumped at every knock. Evan meanwhile played the victim. He posted smiling photos online with captions about praying for peace. He told people Marla was having a breakdown. He told people I was some strange man taking advantage. And because he was charming, people believed him. But Trooper Holloway didn't stop. He dug into the gun's serial number. Came back registered to someone else. Not Marla. Not Evan. Third name. A man in another county. A man who had reported it stolen 2 months ago. Trooper Holloway traced the cash. Marked bills from an embezzlement case. Money missing from Evan's company. The same company that had suddenly accused Marla. Then came the biggest break. Tyler Mercer was pulled over late one night for speeding. Routine stop. But when the trooper ran his name, it flagged him as a person of interest. They searched his car. And in his glove compartment, they found dark synthetic gloves. And inside Tyler's phone, they found texts from Evan. Simple. Cold. Fleming. Yard clean. Do it tonight. Make it look like her. No mistakes. When Trooper Holloway showed Marla that screenshot, she didn't cry at first. She just stared. Like part of her still couldn't accept that the man she married could write a sentence like, make it look like her about her life. Then she whispered, he never loved me. And that was the moment her grief turned into something else. Not revenge like screaming and breaking things. Revenge like clarity. Like a woman finally standing up straight after years of shrinking. Evan was arrested 3 days later. Not for divorce fraud. Not for being cruel. But for what actually matters in the end. For the crime he thought he could hide. Fraud. Conspiracy. Evidence tampering. And when they put the handcuffs on him outside his office, cameras were there. Because Trooper Holloway had leaked nothing. But truth has a way of spreading. Evan's face stayed calm at first, like he thought he could talk his way out. But then he saw Marla standing across the street, holding her coat tight, watching. Their eyes met. And for the first time, Evan looked scared. Not scared of prison. Scared of losing control. Marla didn't smile. She didn't wave. She simply looked at him like she finally saw him clearly. And that was his karma. Because men like Evan don't fear jail as much as they fear being seen. Later, after the court dates began and the story hit local news, people who had avoided Marla started calling her. Couple friends. Church friends. Neighbors. Some apologized. Some pretended they had believed her all along. Marla listened, then calmly said, where were you when I was terrified in my own house? Some had no answer. That was their karma too. Because silence has a price. One evening, after a long day of paperwork and tears, Marla and I stood on her porch watching fresh snow fall again. Her yard was still a yard. Just grass and cold earth beneath the white. But now it looked different. Not like a trap. Like a clean beginning. Marla exhaled slowly. I kept hearing your promise in my head, she said. When you said you'd cover my groceries. When you said you'd help. It reminded me that not everyone is Evan. He nodded. You saved yourself too. She looked at the snow. I almost touched it, she whispered. I almost dug. I almost tried to fix it alone. She turned to me, eyes shining but steady. I won't do that anymore. And that's the life lesson I want you to take from this story. Sometimes the most dangerous thing isn't the monster in your house. It's the trap they leave behind when they walk out smiling. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is not react. Not panic. Not touch the snow. Because people who set traps want your fingerprints on their plan. They want your fear to do their dirty work. So if someone ever tries to destroy you with a calm voice and a perfect image, remember this. Stay still long enough for truth to show itself. Document everything. Ask for help. And let karma do what it does best. Because the snow always melts. And what's buried always rises. If you believe in karma, if you believe truth always finds a way, subscribe to this channel. And in the comments, tell me this. Have you ever seen someone try to ruin another person and end up destroying themselves instead?